Welcome to a video on the wildlife of Khaosok National Park, focusing on the shores and surrounding area of the dammed reservoir, which is a key feature of the park. I've never done a video like this before, so this is going to be half what I guess is vlog style, which will hopefully help anyone planning to do a trip or tour like this in future, and also a bit of a documentary style, which will hopefully be enjoyable for more of the naturalist point of view. Our guide for this trip was Ruam, an experienced local guide who had been doing this job for years and had a wealth of knowledge about the dam, the surrounding area and its flora and fauna. We would also discover he had fantastic eyes when it came to spotting wildlife in the forest, which was invaluable for locating the animals in this environment.
I've just spotted some monkeys in the trees here. We're not even at the lodge yet. And I shouted monkeys and just turned the boat around straight away. So maybe this is quite a big deal. I'm just going to try and film some for you, but I can barely see them myself. It's even harder to pick them out through the green with the camera, but hopefully I'll get some footage.
These monkeys turned out to be long-tailed macaques, and so were not in fact one of the rarest species found here. But as it was the first wildlife we saw, Ruam got us up close for an encounter, despite the fact these would turn out to be the most commonly seen animals of the trip. Long-tailed macaques, or crab-eating macaques, can be found through much of southern and southeastern Asia. The groups are called a troop, and usually consist of only 1 or 2 males with up to 20 females and their young. The female young will usually stay with the group, whereas when the males reach maturity, they'll disperse to either form new groups or join a bachelor troop. The macaque's ability to thrive in a wide range of different habitats, including very disturbed human-occupied areas, combined with their ability to use tools such as rocks and oyster shells to open nuts and crabs, means they feed on a wide range of food items, from fruit, nuts and flowers, to crabs, insects and even clay. Not sure if this is allowed on YouTube, but we even saw some mating behaviour from this group. We then continued across the dam on this beautiful sunny day, as we seem to have got dead lucky with the weather, stopping on the way for any wildlife, which was pretty abundant, such as these hornbills, which I couldn't get very good footage of due to the rocking boat, but at least this shows them. The hornbills were fairly abundant, and there's a good chance of seeing multiple species on the trip. However, this was the only footage I managed. Before we arrived at the floating bungalows, Ruam took us to visit some caves and some forest trails in search of some of the park's megafauna. However, as you might have gathered from my channel, I have a particular interest in reptiles, and I was really hoping for some of the area's diurnal snake species. Both the caves and the forest trail were really cool places to visit and didn't seem to be very busy or well trodden, because I think not many of the tours go here. And although we didn't see much in the way of snakes or megafauna here, I did find some sun skinks out basking.
First reptile we've just seen on this day hike, which is actually pretty surprising, is one of the sun skinks that you find in Thailand, which are pretty common, but we actually hadn't seen one yet, so it's a pretty cool find. I'm just going to try and get some shots of this one, and then we'll leave him on his log. But that's the first reptile of the walk, so that's encouraging. Got another skink here. Same species as before. I'm going to try and get some shots of this one because I didn't even get anywhere near the last one. And it spooked away, but it's nice to be seeing some reptiles in the day as opposed to on the night walks. It's encouraging for the future, for the nights.
We reached the floating bungalows in the early afternoon, and they really were fantastic accommodation. Again, details will be in the description, but the location and quality of these was fantastic. And as we were settling in, we got called to what was arguably the best animal sighting of the whole trip.
So these macaques are freaking out right now, and everyone at the resort where we're staying is freaking out because we've just spotted a black bear, a sunbear I think, just come down here off the shore. It's an amazing sight. I can't see it right now.
Encounters with any bear species in the wild is special, but the way even the guides who've done this for years were running for their phones really made me realise how lucky we got here. This is because, despite simply being a rare animal with ever decreasing population densities, the malayansunbear is primarily nocturnal and it's very infrequently seen out in the open during the day as clearly as this. These bears don't hibernate and are active all year round. They're one of the smallest bear species and one of the least predatory, preferring to eat fruit, insects and honey, which they extract from beehives with their long slender tongues. However, these macaques were still pretty distressed, and their alarm calls were what alerted us to the bear's presence. Some bears face multiple threats across their range. Habitat loss is a big problem, this leads to population fragmentation, and then additionally, these animals suffer illegal poaching to acquire their bile for medicinal purposes, a practice widely condemned for being inhumane. This further confirms just how privileged we were to see and film this individual.
So that was a bit chaotic, but we literally just saw a sunbear in the wild, which is insane. Now we're booked on for a safari kind of a tour, like they're taking us out to see stuff like that, but to see one just behind the lodge, that like everyone here is like, that was pretty special. That was really lucky to see that. So yeah, that just happened. I can't wait for the rest of it now. Thailand is just being so kind to us at the moment.
As that afternoon turned to evening, the heavens opened and the rain didn't let up. As a result, the decision was made to cancel that evening's boat trip to look for wildlife. When it's raining this heavy, there just isn't much point, as spotting anything is really hard. The trees are all constantly blowing, so you can't spot the branches moving. Any noises are masked by rainfall, and all the gear will just get soaked too. We therefore got an early night, ready to be up at dawn for another safari.
Well, it's 6 o'clock on day 2, and we've woken up for the morning safari, and we're going to go and try and find some elephants. So we'll see how we get on.
We didn't get far before Ruam spotted this lone largibbon swinging through the trees. These gibbons are the largest primate found here, but they're still so agile and seamless moving through the trees. Sometimes you can't even see what they're grabbing or swinging on, you just have to track their movement through the branches. This species lives in small family groups, consisting of the male and female pair and their young. These gibbons feed mainly on fruit, with insects, bird eggs, and sometimes even birds they catch making up a smaller part of the diet. Very rarely are these species observed in the understory of the forest, and it's thought they don't venture down to the forest floor at all, finding even enough water in tree hollows to avoid the need to come down from the canopy. In the same tree as the gibbon was this black giant squirrel, a species which competes with gibbons and other primates of the area for some food sources, such as fruit, insects, and bird eggs. Both gibbons and giant black squirrels face threats throughout their range of habitat destruction and illegal poaching for the pet trade and for meat. These giant squirrels live solitary lifestyles and spend most of their lives alone, only meeting up for mating twice a year, so while they aren't uncommon, I think we got pretty lucky to see this one. Unlike the gibbons, these squirrels occupy both the canopy and the ground, and although they're much more at home up in the trees, it's much more common for them to come down and forage on the ground for fallen nuts and pine cones.
This is not a bad way to spend your morning.
We floated quietly away from the tree we saw the gibbon at, and before long we encountered our third primate species of the trip. Now these proved much trickier to film and rarely came out in the open, so this footage you're about to see is all I got, I'm afraid. This is a duskyleafmonkey, a species that prefers dense primary forest and so is harder to see in the open. They browse on leaves, shoots and seedlings which they rip off by hand, and so they likely play an ecological role in seed dispersal in the forest. Dusky leaf monkeys have a social structure more similar to macaques, and groups usually consist of only 1 or 2 adult males plus a handful of adult females with youngsters. Group territories of between 5 and 12 hectares have been recorded, and I think this species was probably the most elusive primate we saw on the trip. This footage is quite brief and shaky, I realise, but we did spend quite a while trying to follow these monkeys, hoping for some clear shots, and this was the best we got. After that we returned to the bungalows for breakfast. Having failed to find elephants but really lucked out with the primate species, we eagerly awaited that afternoon's trip. Because of the previous night's sighting of the bear, I left Beth to get ready after breakfast and went round to the kitchens of the accommodation to see what I could spot on the shoreline, and I was really pleased to find a big adult water monitor cruising the area where we had seen the bear previously. These are not everyone's favourite, and no one else seemed bothered by this sighting, but as a reptile lover I couldn't help watching and filming this one forage around the banks. These monitor lizards are the largest lizard found in Thailand, and they eat a wide range of prey, taking anything they can catch really, including venomous snakes. Water monitors are of course great swimmers, and also great climbers, and they occupy a wide range of habitats from pristine primary forests to heavily disturbed human-occupied areas. There's also wild boar present in these forests, and one of these also emerged onto the shoreline foraging this morning. Clearly these are a much more common visitor to this area, as the ever-present macaques didn't seem to care about its appearance at all, whereas the bear and the monitor lizard really triggered their alarm calling. Although these wild boar eat mostly fallen fruit, nuts and roots, they're still a formidable mammal, and have been known to charge people who encounter them in the forest. They will also defend themselves and their offspring fiercely, and have been recorded causing significant damage to many predators throughout their range that are brave enough to take them on.
So that was the morning boat safari done, and that went really well, especially on the primates. And now we're going to head out again.
As usual, it didn't take long to spot something, and this lesser fish eagle was the first encounter of the afternoon. We then came across more largibbons, and this time one was a blackgibbon, which is the exact same species but just in the dark form they can be found in. Once again, the height of these gibbons put my camera at max zoom, so apologies for the shake, but I just wanted to capture the difference between the light and dark form morphs of these primates. This was most likely a male and female pair, and we got a much clearer view than of the previous individual. If you do come here to see these animals, I'd definitely recommend bringing some binoculars. Now, because this whole trip I'd been talking to our guide Ruam about the wildlife of the area, and I think he'd noticed that I hadn't shut up about snakes I wanted to see, so despite him probably thinking I was crazy to want to see the animals that most of his guests likely want to avoid, being the good guide he is, he took the longtail boat down a narrow creek that feeds this dam, to give me a chance to see sleeping pythons or mangrove snakes in the branches, and to try and find the elephants which had so far eluded us this trip. On this occasion, the creek proved fruitless, but it was a beautiful place for a snack and a quick swim, and shows how dedicated the guides here are to finding your target animals.
Just spotted this buffalo. It's called a gaur. I'm just trying to try and stalk up on him so I can get some better footage. It's on one of these islands at the wildlife sanctuary end of the dam. Turns out there's actually a pair of these. We've been seeing a lot of damage caused by buffaloes and elephants in this area, so we're hoping we'll run into one of them.
These gaur are the largest bovine in Southeast Asia and roam completely wild in these national parks. They previously suffered declines of over 70% in the last 3 generations, so it was another animal we really enjoyed seeing. As we continued on through the lake, I grabbed a few more clips of the ever-abundant long-tailed macaques, and was reminded how lucky we'd been to see almost every species of megafauna possible this trip. And just as we were contemplating the elusive elephants, which were really the animal Beth wanted to see the most, Ruam noticed a storm front heading across the dam, and so we had to suddenly get moving. Yet even as we powered along at full throttle, Ruam's eagle eyes spotted the sight we'd most wanted to see.
We've just come across a herd of these Asian elephants. We've been trying to find these all day, and then we're just running for home because there was a storm coming in, and we've just seen them, and Ruam's dived the boat in. This is what we've been looking for all day. This is great. This is the first time I've ever seen elephants in the wild. This is what Beth most wanted to see as well. So she's really buzzed right now. We've been seeing this bamboo destruction that we're seeing them do right now. We've been seeing that throughout the day, just without actually seeing the culprits. And here they are. Yeah, everyone's pointing out that calf that the mother in the bottom right's got.
Although they aren't the rarest animal we saw, this was probably our most memorable wildlife encounter in all of Southeast Asia, and we were both delighted to watch this group feeding on the bamboo in the afternoon drizzle. Being able to watch moments like this is a true privilege for any naturalists, and I can't thank Ruam enough because he never took his eyes off this forest for a second trying to find us these. The adults in this group will all have been female, plus the calf this closest female had. They'll spend a large part of their day feeding on this bamboo, and each elephant will eat between 5 and 10% of its body weight each day. Asian elephants are an endangered species for a number of reasons. Logging, slash and burn practices, rotating cultivation and monoculture tree plantations which take place throughout Southeast Asia are major threats to the survival of the elephants. Not only do these fragment and reduce suitable habitat for the elephants, but they force elephants and humans into close proximity, where human-elephant conflict is inevitable. Furthermore, elephants are intentionally poached for their ivory, meat and leather, so these animals face a web of threats to their way of life. It was nice both to see these elephants enjoying their natural life in peace and to see humans and elephants coexisting around this dam in harmony. I've left these short clips in as they show just how strong and destructive these animals can be. You can actually see them tugging further and further up on the bamboo until they manage to get enough force to snap it. Then they work along the fallen segment, eating the leaves off it. You really don't need to be a skilled tracker to tell where elephants have been in this forest.
That ear flapping you can see him doing. Pretty sure that's to cool the elephants down while they're munching away. Those ears have a big surface area, so one of the things they use them for is so it's a big area to lose heat through. I can't believe how chill they are with how close we're getting. I've been warned many times, mainly in India, that the most dangerous thing you can come across on the trail is an elephant. So if I'd have been driving this boat, I would not have got it this close. Ram obviously knows exactly what he's doing, and he's done this 100 times before, but what a privilege. This is how you should see elephants, not in a sanctuary, not feeding them, not bathing him or walking him or anything. Completely out in the wild, in the jungles of Southeast Asia, where they belong. Look at this. Fantastic.
Like all good animal encounters, we had to remember when we'd been with them long enough, and this calf falling asleep on its mother while standing up seemed a good cue to leave. And with that, our time here came to an end. This was one of our favourite experiences we did while travelling, and I can't recommend it enough, whether you're a professional wildlife photographer or you just fancy seeing some of this amazing Thai fauna. I've put all the details in the description if anyone does fancy coming here and doing this, and once again a massive thank you to Ruam, who was a fantastic guide and really made the trip successful. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.